Live. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. We're back again for what I think is going to be the final episode of my live of solo shorts this year. And what a year it's been. I've just been talking to Chris just in the background. And before I introduce Chris properly, I'd like to thank all of those who have supported me this year. Shout out to everyone that's going to join us live right now, and also those that are going to be catching the replay too. So be sure to say hi in the chat. Let us know who you are, why where you're joining from, if you're team live or team replay. And one other thing as well, I did this on a private webinar and it's really helped me as well. If there's any kind of, well, definitely if there's any questions you have for myself or Chris, then just drop them in chat. But also, if there are any nuggets here, let us know. Let us know what's really resonating with you. It really helps us. Um, so I'm going to get straight into this because this next 30 minutes is going to go really fast. I know they usually do these solo shorts, and that's the whole point of them. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this one because today I have a very special guest, and I'm sure many of you watching are familiar with him. It's hard to miss him, especially if you are in the business of design. He really doesn't need much of an introduction. But for those who aren't in the know, he's an entrepreneur, speaker, author, teacher, content creator. I can go on, an amazing storyteller. After running an Emmy Award winning motion design studio and brand consultancy for um, over 20 years, I think it is, in Santa Monica, LA. He is now also the founder and CEO of a company called The Future, where he teaches creative professionals how to make a living doing what they love. I've had the pleasure of being coached by Chris before, and I've learned so much from him. I've met many friends and work connections as well within the Future Pro Group community that I'm part of. So I know firsthand what value he brings to the table every time I see him and hear him speak, which is why I'm excited to share this live with my audience as well. So yeah, hi Mohammed Faraz and hi Tessin. Thanks for joining us. Hey Felix. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest, mentor, and friend, Chris Doe. Hey Chris, how are you?
Hi, Ash. So good to be here. I'm excited to have this call with you because, as you know, we've tried this twice before. So I think there's something magic about the number three. Third time is the charm.
Absolutely, three is the magic number.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, these are solo shorts, Chris. The reason why I started doing these shorts were twofold: was just to kind of show another side of my personality, but also to inspire other people, other solopreneurs, and showcase other people that have been there, but also people that help other people grow and build their audience. And I couldn't, obviously think of anyone better than you. Um, so I think I want to start by talking about what you currently do. And I think a good place to start is maybe talk about the huge goal that underpins everything that you do at the future, the 1 billion mission. So for
Sure.
those who don't follow you or don't know what you do or aren't familiar with the 1 billion mission specifically, can you tell us a little bit more about it and why all of that is important to you?
Yeah. So there was a period in my life when I worked to make a living. I make commercials and music videos for large advertising agencies, for really big global brands, and that fulfilled me for quite some time. But my main motivation was to make really cool work and to be surrounded by friends that I admired and liked, and to make money so that I don't have to worry about money. And once you start to achieve that to some degree, you start to think about like, what else is there for me? And I found that I was losing the drive to go to work every single day because I was essentially working to retire. And good news, bad news, my financial advisor said, Chris, you could have retired years ago. You don't need to make any more money given how you spend money and how much you have. And so that really got me to start to think about, well, what else is there for my life? And I was just losing that spark. And I share that because a lot of us go to work and we don't really think, what is it that's compelling us? What is drawing us to the work and not what's pushing us out of bed? And I think that's really important. Luck would have it that I'm trying to figure out the next phase of my company when I run into an old friend from Art Center. His name is Jose Caballé. And he and I, we reconnect and we're talking about education and our own deep passions. Both of us have been instructors. And I'm like, I've been wanting to create an education company. I just don't know what the steps are. Long story short, he and I make YouTube videos and it changes the course of my life. And now I have an education company, and this team that was originally here to make work for clients in the service industry, they're a little confused. Like, what are we trying to do? So we're in a management meeting, and my manager's looking at me saying, so what is the future then? Is it for us to sell courses? Are we trying to build a community? What are we trying to do? And they kind of pushed me into the corner a little bit because I didn't have to articulate this to anyone else. And I looked around the room, and I was looking at Ben Burns, who my chief operating officer. I looked at him. I said, so here's the thing, guys. My kids are too old, so it's kind of too late for them. But I think about Ben's daughter, who at that time I think was like 3 years old. I said, by the time she's 18 and she's going to choose where she's going to go to college, it's important to me that she have a choice, that we become the alternative to private art school at a drastically reduced cost, but the same or if not better quality in education. And that seemed to resonate with everyone. And they're like, okay, this is what we're trying to do. Because I said, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to change the system. I like to make Game of Thrones references when Daenerys Targaryen says, I'm not here to keep spinning the wheel. I'm here to break the wheel. I want to be a wheel breaker, and I want to kill the masters. And the masters are the people who have control of the education system, who decide who gets in, mostly out of tuition and whatever they deem as a worthy portfolio. I want to break the system. That night I go to sleep, and I think about this idea, and I got to be able to tell this story more succinctly. And so in the morning I wake up and it's clear to me now what it is. And I said, I want to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love. The initial draft was how to make money doing what they love, but I wanted to remove the word money because not everybody looks at money as the reason. So to make a living allows each person to decide what is the living to you. It could just be a great family life, it could just be about artistic expression, or it could be financial success. Whatever gives you joy, you define that. Well, I want to help to get you there. I text that over to Ben, and Ben says, I love it. And that's how our mission statement began. And it's really important for people who are trying to tell their story to others to be able to say it in short, bite-sized pieces that is repeatable. Stories spread, and the better story spreads faster. And what's interesting and wonderful about it is every time I'm interviewed, somebody will ask me, what's the 1 billion mission? We love it. And that's a great conversation starter.
That's brilliant. I love it, and it's definitely one of the things that resonated with me. And especially is I've actually I should have heard this before about the whole drafting about the money thing, and you changed it. But I feel if it was just about money for me, I probably might not have pulled towards you and what you guys do at the future as much because I've run an agency and it's done well. It's a very small team, and but it's almost felt like I wanted to do something a little bit more, and it really clarified a lot for me. I think it was the business boot camp, but generally your content, either way, it really I pulled towards that side of it. So I mean, you have a team, right, in terms
Yes.
of what you do, and you had a very successful agency. There must have been some mental, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I feel if it was me, there would have been some mental and emotional challenges to totally remove what's successful and what you're doing well with the agency and switch and totally do something totally different. How do you address that? Because I think that will
Yeah.
inspire other people as well.
Yeah. Whenever you're doing something radically new or different or innovative, there's going to be resistance, not only from yourself, but from your team members. So here's essentially what happened. When we started moving away from service to agencies to creating an education company, we lost people. A lot of my salespeople, executive producers who didn't know how to navigate in this new world. So the first people to go were the upper management people who were doing, what did they call it? Account management, because there were no more accounts that we were interested in doing. And they're throwing up their hands and they're like, what am I supposed to do? You're tying my hands. How do I sell something when you don't want to sell anymore? When you don't want to do creative work for hire? I said, I get that. So I've laid out the roadmap. You have as much time as you need to figure out your next job, because most likely it's not going to be here. And so they self-select and they're like, okay, thanks very much. It's been wonderful. And I'm going to take off. I'm like, cool. God bless you. Hope you do really well in your life. Now let's talk about the creative challenges. So if most of your life, and for some of my team, they were with me for over 10 years, they are very much other motivated. We get a brief from a client, we solve that, and we're really good at that. Also, they're really tapped into creating very high level pieces of work, high fidelity rendering, 3D compositing, all the kinds of stuff that make for a beautiful, visually captivating piece. And now we're going into making YouTube videos where the pace is different. Who's telling us what to do? No one is telling us what to do. We tell ourselves what to do. The deadlines are whatever we set, and the kind of quality that you are expecting to create is very different. So initially, some of my team members wanted to work on pieces that would take a month or 2 months to do and would require half the company's resources to make. For example, the Building a Brand series took us almost 6 months to make, multiple editors working on it, cinematographers shooting. By my estimate, we probably spent over $200,000 in man hours just to produce that show. So fans of the show say, well, why don't you make season two? The next time you have $200,000 to send me, let me know and we'll produce season two. It was
Yeah.
a very expensive endeavor. And to me, in the way that I think, I like to iterate and move fast, break things, and learn while I'm doing it. And so there was a conceptual leap for a lot of the team. And so there was that period where it was really rough, where I'm like, you guys, we can't work on a video for a month and a half because if it doesn't blow up, we're screwed. We're not at that Mr. Beast level where we can work on a video for 2 months, drop it, and get 100 million views. We're not at that level.
Mm.
Nor is our audience. We're not trying to go for a mass appeal because what we do is to service niche creative markets, agency owners, small solopreneur operators, people who are in transition looking to quit their job and quit their 9 to 5, that kind of thing. It's not for everyone. And
Mm.
so there was that struggle, and we got through it ultimately, obviously. And still some people made it and some people didn't.
Just tagging on to what you were saying there with regards to um, content and having a huge team behind you, and also this whole great resignation trend, because I think it's so important to talk about this right now because there's a huge trend in people wanting to do exactly what when they see uh, people like you and organizations like the Future and other content creators. um, what would be your best advice in terms of, let's talk about content creation? What would you be your best advice be about starting to create content without a huge team or without a huge production team? Where does one start?
Oh, I think most content creators start with a team of one, and you start with whatever you have, and you already have all the tools that you need, which is your smartphone. If you have an iPhone or a Pixel or a Galaxy, you have everything you already need because you just need to be able to capture image. The thing that you need to make sure is you are able to record your voice clearly because audio counts more than visual, because you can have an out of focus low resolution video, but if the audio is terrible, it's very hard to connect with your ideas.
Mm.
The next thing that you need, the critical pieces, Ash, which is you need a compelling story or a point or a lesson, and you need to be able to convey that with conviction, hopefully based on your own experience, your observations, and your expertise. Recently, I was talking about creating this content trinity, this triangle, if you will, that the three components that you need for a very successful video is one, it has utility value, that your audience sees that this is either educational, entertaining, or other. Whatever it is, they have to get utility out of spending their time watching it. Two is your expertise. What have you put in thousands of hours learning and have depth of knowledge of? And this is critical because there are a lot of people who barely know anything and then you start to create content. That's okay. But typically, most people will see that and say, okay, you're not the expert I was looking for. And that's okay too. And the last one is the trend, to be able to surf on trends. What's happening in pop culture? What's part of the zeitgeist? What are people talking about? What is being searched heavily and trending on Google search? If
Mm.
you are able to find the overlap between those three things, I think you have the chance of making a piece of content that people are going to want to watch and share.
Yeah, I totally agree with the side of I think you're thinking about the audience first and what's going to be valuable to them, and that's all about storytelling. What about the entertainment side of things? I know you've stayed away from that. It's all about education for you. Has that always been the strategy? And follow up to that question as well. Did you think content first and then courses afterwards, or was it a strategic decision right from the start?
Yes, very good. So I don't really think about entertainment too much. I really am. I see myself as a teacher. That's part of my identity. And so if you ask me like, who am I? I'm a father, husband, teacher, entrepreneur, probably in that order. And I don't look at it like I'm that person who's trying to like become a famous actor or comedian. That's
Mm,
not my jam. I'm not necessarily trying to get internet famous. What I want to do is transform people's lives. Zig Ziglar's quote here: "You can get everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want in life." And I really believe that. So for me, and it's a wonderful business model, my path to wealth is to help other people become wealthy in their own way. And wealth is just the freedom to do what you want with who you want whenever you want. And so I just want to make sure people don't think it's always financial. And so if I can make it entertaining, I will. And but that's a secondary driver. And of course, if you're a boring teacher and you speak to the camera, then you're not an effective teacher. So what you try to do is you inject your personality, you try to do demonstrations, and you sometimes you have to get a little controversial by saying things very clearly and definitively. You can't just straddle that fence and try to be all things to all people.
mm,
And so inherently those are the videos that become popular, they become more viral. But really what the heart and intention is, I want to teach you a concept. But people like to see me arguing with potential clients and how to handle those very difficult situations, because I think it touches an emotional core or nerve in them that they've been in this situation before and they didn't like how they resolved it, so they want to see other people and how they might resolve it.
yeah, and we talked off air. We talked about the that emotional side being an important part of storytelling generally. So, yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways from me I learned from you and the future was the generosity in your content. Like, you guys give a lot away. Like, I think I
Yeah.
even remember having this conversation with you in at your office in Santa Monica. I was like, it was one of my designers that brought you what you guys do to my attention, and they were like, "There's this guy. He's just giving away
Mhm.
all the agency secrets," um, and yeah, I think that was the main thing for me. Like much of your YouTube free content could easily be paid courses. Like, do you ever, and I know this question comes a lot from
Yeah.
content creators, do you ever worry about giving everything away, or do you see that as a superpower?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's an ongoing debate at the office because my team's like, Chris, shouldn't this be behind a paywall? Like you're literally teaching a class that I would pay money to attend. So what are we doing here? What's the strategy? And I'm not sure. I'm gonna just be really honest with you. I'm not sure what the strategy is because I'm not trying to create an online course academy. I'm trying to change education. I'm trying to
Mm,
change the system. Okay. And so here's the reality of it is there are a lot of people that are outside of what I would consider our customer who need this information so that they can grow and be able to pay rent or to provide for their families. They tend to be outside of the United States, but it's not exclusively that way. So there are places in India, parts of Asia, parts of Africa, all over the world, South America, where people just the amount of money they can generate for themselves is so low. How could they ever even buy a course? And my whole mission isn't just to help the rich get richer. It's about trying to bring some equity into the education system. So I have to be able to help people get out from below the poverty line so that they can better their lives. Now, if at any point in their life they're able to achieve some level of success and they say, you know what, you got me from here to here, and we hear these stories often actually. A woman shared a story with us inside the pro group. She said, I used to charge $50 to do a logo, and now I'm charging $5,000. And that is a remarkable increase. If you just look at the number there, the math is astonishing. It's not double, it's not 10 times, it's like 100 times more than she used to be able to charge. And she said, I know it's still not a lot of money, but it's making a difference in my life. And to me, that's what it's all about. So if
mm,
I could, Ash, if I could, and I'm hoping some giant corporate sponsor hears this, I would just teach everything for free and make it all for free if I could. If I can find a financial model where someone says, you know what, we're going to drop $10 million on you. You just make whatever it is you want with your entire team and do whatever it is you want to teach the world because we believe in what you do. I would then just make all our courses, including the boot camp, for free for everyone.
Wow. And
So
that's an idea.
it's a struggle. Okay, so it's a struggle. I never know because I don't always make the best business decision, Ash.
And that's an idea is strong in branding, especially when you want to be different, right? And well, and ideas that kind of scares the hell out of everyone are often the most powerful. But yeah, there's that balance. How do you work that out? We're here to make money as well.
That's
So
right. Because
there's so
I need help, right? I want to be clear because I'm also a business person. I need help. I need help in writing content and researching and designing and editing and producing because I want to keep raising the
mm,
bar in terms of like how we can make our content more engaging and entertaining if we can. And so we have to be able to scale this operation. It can't be me sitting in a garage somewhere trying to make this content by myself because my ability to reach more people is going to be greatly diminished. So we're trying to find that balance. And I do want to share one quick thing with you.
yeah.
So what happens typically is somebody's going to watch this video and they're going to say, "Get off your high and mighty soapbox. Don't be so fake altruistic. We know you're not." And this is the criticism I get, and I want to just share this really quickly. They're like, "Well, you're not getting money for what it is that you're doing, but you're getting fame and you're trading on that. So don't, So that's an argument that people will bring up. They're saying, so you're trading instead of money, you're trading it for views. In the normal business world, most sane people would say, well, I would trade views for money any day of the week because followers don't equal dollars, as they say.
Mm.
So I'm not doing this necessarily to get famous. And I would discourage anybody from trying to make something to be famous. The greater impact you make on the lives of people, the more famous you'll become. It's a byproduct of you doing good and giving value to others.
I think it's a really important point, and it's something I teach in my framework that I've created as well. In with regards to personal branding, is why I talk about the stuff that I'm good at, which is storytelling and marketing. But I also talk about stories about um, that kind of presents my personal philosophy and my personal values as well, because I think that's important as well. Because I want to also work with not necessarily the same type of people, but I want to work with the people that align with me. And big corporations have done that for years. Like you've got faceless corporations trying to humanize themselves, right, through
Yes.
archetypes and all that sort of stuff. And then there you get comments like, "What are you doing there?" Like, well, I'm trying not to dehumanize myself. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think that's really important. We've got loads of love for you. I'm trying to figure out if there's any questions here, but there's so much love for you, and I'm not surprised here, Chris. But yeah, and let me just check the time as well. Yeah, so we've
Yeah,
got.
while you're doing that, while you're searching for a comment, I
Mm,
wanted to just add on to what you're saying. So in the 21st century, especially in industrialized countries where there's opportunity, people no longer buy things because they need them. They buy them because they want what it is that it provides to them. And people are in search of identity and meaning in what it is that they do. So they don't buy products, they join tribes. They want to be identified with groups of people. So as a company, a solopreneur, or a multi-billion dollar multinational corporation, you have to be sure you can convey what it is that you're about because otherwise I can't tell what tribe I'm joining. And you can look at highly niche luxury brands as the people who are the clearest about who they are and the tribe they're about. Because when you're buying a very expensive handbag or a backpack, you can buy a potato sack and it'll serve the same function. But then it doesn't solve your own dilemma, which is who am I when I buy this thing? By buying this, what does it make me? And what does it say about my beliefs and values?
absolutely, absolutely. I've got one question here
Okay.
from Felix. I'm going to put it up on screen as well. What is your biggest accomplishment regarding your journey of Christo? Deep question there.
It is a really deep question. I think for me, and this is going to sound really strange, everybody, it's when I found my voice as a creator, as a human, as an entrepreneur. I think that was the most transformative moment for myself. And let me explain. And so many people can't understand and process this because of how much content I make and how much I'm on camera. But for the majority of my life, up until about 40 years old, talking to people in any kind of public manner would scare the living daylights out of me. The moments I dreaded most in grade school, in primary school, was when the teacher said, "Now it's your turn to read the next passage," and my body would shake, and my voice would crack each and every single time, and my heart would beat faster and faster as you can see. We went to Sally, and then Susie, then Mark, and then it's going to be my turn. As it got closer and closer, my heart rate was elevated. And in the initial days when we were recording content, I could not watch our own videos because I didn't want to see myself, and especially did not want to hear myself. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey to be repeatedly exposed to things that you thought were horrific, like your own face and your own voice. And it was a very tough thing. So learning to love myself and to accept myself for who I am, and to recognize that my voice, my ideas, my perspective can connect with people in the world that I'll never meet, to actually help them on their journey, was one of the most powerful transformations I've ever had.
Beautiful. And I totally resonate with that. And I think a lot of people do, content creators. I want to ask you one question because I've heard this stuff, and I've also seen the older videos, and I've now seen them pop up as shorts as well with Jose.
Yes.
How do you feel firstly when you see them? Do you still have those feelings? Are they cringy for you, or does it not bother you? And then the second part is, do you still get nervous? Like, you are very charismatic, you're very confident, and I know that's practice, and I know put a lot of work into it. But do you get
Mhm.
nervous? That's the second question.
Yes. Okay. So the videos no longer make me cringe, and it's a progress. Or I'm sorry, it's a progression where eventually, like, hey, all right, let me listen to myself because I need to see how I explain things, and now I'm more analytical about, oh, that was a good turn of a phrase there, and you were able to seize the moment as I'm watching myself, or I'm like, why did I say that? That was kind of silly. Next time, just let's make a footnote of that, and let's adjust for next time and be better. And I try not to spend too much time looking into the past videos, but when we release a new video, I'll watch it because I need to see, like, okay, how did they edit this? How did it transition? Am I able to follow my own content so I can make notes for improvement? And do I still get nervous? I do, depending on what the setup is. But here's one thing I can tell everyone is, when I used to speak every 6 months, it was basically starting over. And so I would forget how to use Keynote. I'd forget the cadence and the flow. I'd forget my entire process. But these days, you can find me in a given month where I'm doing 4 talks that are original, where I have to write 4 talks in 1 month. So the frequency helps. And so anytime you expose yourself to the same problem over and over again, your level of discomfort is going to diminish while your level of comfort is going to increase. So whatever it is that you hate, whether it's mowing the lawn, shooting a basketball into a hoop, whatever it is, just do it over and over again. And each time you'll hate it a little less, and you'll start to eventually learn to love it.
I know we're running out a bit of time. I've got a couple of other questions from the chat.
Okay.
Have you all right for a couple of
I'm
minutes,
okay with
Chris?
time. Yeah.
Cool. Tess in here, put it up on the screen. When you transition from agency owner to creator, and it might need a bit more than a couple of minutes here, how did you decide
Okay.
which content to create?
Okay. So I also want to be clear about this. The transition is not like a light switch where you flip it and it becomes an overnight thing. Did my video freeze?
Um, no, you're good.
Oh, okay. I'm so good. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So what happens is, it's a sliding scale. I just want every entrepreneur to know this. So Blind is still running. It's still making money. And the future is not making any money for about 2 years. And then it starts to cross over where we can actually make that jump. So I'm not telling you, everyone, to quit your day job, stop working for clients, and then put all this financial pressure on yourself and your family. Build a model, have a plan. And when it makes financial sense, go ahead and make that switch. So how do I know what kind of content to create? It's very easy. You listen to your audience. You find the rhythm of what they want from you, and it's not always what you think. Initially, I made design videos and I talked about just general things, but it wasn't until I started talking about being very transparent about pricing, business practices, how to delegate work, that then the audience showed up and said, we are interested in hearing this. And I thought that was kind of boring. I was like, who wants to really know this outside of a handful of people? But those are the videos that start to take off. And then your audience says, all the voices we have in the world, we find your voice on this particular topic quite interesting. And so you're always working with that.
Brilliant, brilliant. If there's one thing, another big question, I think we've got loads of big questions here. If there's one thing to learn in 2022, what would it be?
I don't think there's like, I'm not particularly sentimental about the changeover of a calendar year. And I think a lot of people make great ceremony about, okay, now it's January 1, it's time for me to get started. I think the time to get started is right now and always, to be a continuous learner and to try things. Now, in my community specifically, I would say that we have an addiction to learning. We buy courses, we buy books, some we read, some we watch, but not as many people take action as they need to. If I had the choice to tell someone, instead of reading 10 books and doing very little about it, read one book and do 10 things about it. That is the order, because we have an addiction to consumption and not so much in production. And the magic happens when you start to do the work, when you take action. So we have to have a bias towards action. And I would say that that is true in January 1 of 2022. It'll be true in November 23rd. It doesn't matter. Take massive action. You'll learn, you'll grow. Even in failure, you learn.
I've got a question as well, Chris. The content that you guys create, I've seen what goes on behind the scene. You've got the team, you plan things out strategically. How much of that content is planned and how much is off the cuff? Because I know you're everywhere. You've got your own personal social media profiles, but then you've got the future ones and you've got the planned ones. How much of it is kind of off the cuff, and how much of it as do you do personally on your own?
Yeah, that the answer is going to be, it's going to run the gamut. So when we used to do these things called after hours, there's no plan. Whenever we do role plays, there's really no plan. Whoever shows up says, I have a question for you. I say, okay, what's the setup? What is my role? Do you want me to take the job or not take the job? Give me the parameters. How much do you want me to negotiate for? And I will show you. And so oftentimes people comment scripted. None of our content is scripted like that. But then there's also these talks where I have to give for like 25 minutes, where those are highly scripted, edited, polished. And so because we only have 25 minutes to convey an idea, and the people who invite me to speak, they expect a polished product. They don't expect me to ramble and meander about in a conversation. The whiteboard sessions, the typical formula is I get together with the team. I say to them, like, what's hot? What do people want to hear right now? What are you feeling in the comments? And they'll bring up a couple of topics, and one of them would excite me, and I'd say, okay, so you want to know more about this? And they'll say yes. And then I'll explain it to them just on a giant flip chart with a marker, and I'll just draw it out. And so afterwards, they're like, okay, that was great. I said, wonderful. I'll take a photo of it. I'll go home that night. I'll work on a keynote deck, and that will be the whiteboard session, because I just wanted to work out the idea with them to see if this is of interest. So I want to point everyone to this one line from David C. Baker's book, The Business of Expertise. He says that we gain clarity through articulation. And so what we do is we learn what we know by expressing it to other people. So when there's a good question that pops up, I'm like, oh, I haven't really thought about that. Let's see what I know. And then I diagram it out. And if it's satisfying, then I know this is probably something we're going to turn into one of those long form pieces of content.
Brilliant. We're just over time, so thanks so much for your time, Chris. I really appreciate it, and thanks everyone in the chat. I mean, it's not going to be difficult to follow Chris. I think I'm probably right in saying is YouTube is probably the best place. Instagram, I know you're everywhere. Is that kind of the continued plan? Is it you really bullish on YouTube and you're going to carry on, or have you got plans to kind of do much more on the other social media platforms than you already
I'm
do?
very bullish on YouTube. YouTube, as far as I know, is the only social media platform where you can actually have evergreen content, because it's driven by the world's most powerful search engine. And so you can have something that's been sitting on the back shelf, as you know, for years, and then eventually somebody finds it like, wow, I love this video. That's because they're searching for it and YouTube will help them find it. Whereas most of the other social platforms are very ephemeral. If it doesn't hit right away, there's a short shelf life. And depending on the platform, it could be really tiny. Twitter would be the shortest shelf life, where if your tweet doesn't really hit in the first couple of hours, it's kind of done. And that's okay. And I enjoy creating content on all platforms, including LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok. Despite my initial resistance to creating content for TikTok.
Great. So thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate it, and thanks everyone. Yeah, have a great rest of 2021. If you're not following Chris, you know where to find him: YouTube, pretty much all the social media platforms. Have you got a generic kind of tag? Is it the Chris Doe pretty much everywhere?
Yeah, it's at the Chris Doe, and Doe spelled D-O.
There you go. Thank you very much, guys. Take care and see you later.
Thank you, Ash.